Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Wolf. I'm the president and founder of the Space Force Association. And part of our objective is to educate and advocate for a strong United States Space Force. And so I'm honored to have with me today Senior Systems Engineer, Mr. John Manzi from the LinQuest Corporation, who's going to talk a little bit about what they're developing over there in terms of ensuring that the space warfighters are prepared for the future space battle management. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Space Battle Management Trainer. So, John, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Bill. It's great to be here.
And before we get going, I'd like to provide you an opportunity, John, just to explain a little bit about your background and how you ended up working on the SBMT, or Space Battle Management Trainer tool.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. So first of all, work for the LinQuest Corporation based in Colorado Springs. I've been a model-based systems engineering practitioner for about 19 years, and that follows my retirement from the Air Force. I served in active duty for 23 years on both the air and the space sides of the Air Force at the time, and coming to work for organizations such as the former Air Force Space Command here in Colorado Springs, NORAD, U.S. Space Command, Army units, and Headquarters Air Force lately. I've had an opportunity to really apply my operational knowledge with the skills I've developed to create models in support of systems engineering activities. I'm experienced with a number of tools that we use, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and some of the very common modeling language used today. And I'm also certified by the Object Management Group as a systems modeling professional.
That's a great background. I appreciate you going over it for us. And you did mention MBSE, which, like you said, we're going to get into that here in just a second. Can you give us an overview of what the Space Battle Management Trainer is designed to do and who the customer is?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. First of all, Space Battle Management Trainer, which is professionally referred to as the SBMT tool, it's a dynamic instructional environment created to augment the curriculum taught to United States Space Force graduates, and that work is done here in Colorado Springs, where I'm at. The unit that's providing that training is the 319th Combat Training Squadron, located over at Peterson Air Force Base. And the tool is tailored to assist instructors in meeting the learning objectives for a block of instruction that obviously goes with the name of the tool. It's about space battle management.
Perfect. And how do you see SBMT benefiting the Space Force young space guardians?
Well, we refer to them as young, and it's a mixture of junior officers and new enlisted personnel, generally speaking, who go through the undergraduate space training program at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Now, in past times, they would go directly to their units that operate spacecraft and sensors on board the spacecraft or ground-based radars to perform various space and missile warning kinds of functions. So what's new now is the 319th created a course to educate them a little further before they go to those units. And the point of that education is to teach them about the space battle management function, which is performed at a higher level than, organizationally speaking, than their units. So that 3-week course is enhanced by this tool, which we custom developed for them. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we did that. But basically, it's a scenario-based training tool. And it immerses these students in the bigger environment they're a part of, which is battle management. And literally, just like in other domains in the air and on the ground, battle management is managing that close-in fight, so to speak. So that's much more relevant now in space operations. So our tool provides them with very rich graphics, three-dimensional in many cases, and it provides a sense of what the information and provided by their real-world tools and other kinds of communications that will occur while they're at their units participating in this battle management problem. It's intended for both the instructors to use from their platform in this very well-designed course, but students also have the ability to manipulate the controls themselves and go into a self-study mode as well to reinforce what they learned in class.
Oh, that's perfect. And before we get going, there was a video that LinQuest produced just recently that demonstrated this capability. So if it's okay, I'll just bring that video up just briefly, and you can talk to maybe the scenario and how that helps the students see what's going on. So let me just go ahead and share that with the audience here.
So the video is just a snippet of one we created to show what the student experience is like here, and the instructor, of course, as well. And we provide multiple panes of information, some showing a third-person kind of perspective on the left, for example, and on the right, a tool that might be actually used in the Battle Management Center. And across the middle, there's a timeline running, which provides a sequence of activities that keeps them oriented to the particular event they might be managing, and not only what their role is, but also the role of other units and which they can view, as well as the battle management node, where all this information ultimately funnels up to.
No, that's a perfect overview, and we'll put a link to that video if you want to go watch that video, that full video. It's only 4 minutes long, but I think it provides a tremendous overview of the capability that we're talking about today. I understand LinQuest has excellent qualifications, as you mentioned, in model-based systems engineering, or MBSE. Was MBSE applied to SBMT? And can you explain to our audience what MBSE means and some of the benefits of using this approach?
Sure. First of all, yes, we did use model-based systems engineering tools and techniques to support this activity. And but let me tell you a little bit about model-based systems engineering. First of all, it is systems engineering accomplished using models, as opposed to traditional document-based engineering. And model-based engineering has been around quite a while. In fact, since I retired from the Air Force in the early 2000s, we've been actively pursuing this with our government customers. And why we pursue this is for a number of reasons. But first of all, it brings much greater rigor to the systems engineering process. We have to be able to describe operational activities, requirements for systems, the architecture of especially large system-of-system solutions, and then designing actual individual systems to support that bigger architecture. So, working in English and in stovepipe documents stored in various places makes it very hard to synergize the activities of engineers. That's been the long-standing problem with this. It's doable, but it's hard, and it can be expensive, and it can be inefficient in the way it operates. So that's why we turn to models. And when I say models, they're visual in nature. They might look like what you'd see in a PowerPoint depiction, but there's a big difference between models and drawings like you see in those other kinds of tools. And that is that the data that you're looking at is actually housed in a very powerful database that can be represented in any number of ways. It's facts about systems. It's importantly, the relationships among those systems. So with that commitment to, first of all, learn how to model, because everybody has to learn a certain amount about modeling, you are brought together in a common workspace. And since you are adhering to a carefully controlled specification that tells you exactly what all that notation means, we arrive at in a more rigorous way at the information we need to share across these teams. So the benefits are, first of all, you have more insight and transparency into what's going on, especially in these large Department of Defense type programs. It enhances communications across the team because you have multiple varied disciplines of engineers working together. And it also really supports, in a much better way, trade space exploration. That's not really possible with document-based approach. The information is too spread out and in different formats. And making trades is a really important part of getting the most out of our tax dollars. So as an end result, you get better understanding and greater confidence in the design of operational concepts as much as the systems that ultimately support those operational concepts. And we arrive at a really more efficient engineering process. So as I said, our space battle management trainer was developed by, first of all, modeling the scenarios you were looking at a minute ago in enough detail to guide the engineers, in this case software engineers, to developing a wonderful educational environment we created for the 319.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a huge deal. And I know that it's a priority for the Space Force to provide a training system that the individuals and experts can interact with the system, and interact with the domain, because that's a frustrating part of the space domain is it's not a tangible domain. We don't sit there and get inside a satellite like we do in all the other domains where you actually get inside a system and interact with that system directly. Everything we do is in the space domain is everything's out in space. So you've got to figure out a way to be able to interact with that domain. And it looks like this tool provides exactly that opportunity to get inside that domain and interact with the system. And I understand you're talking about cost benefit analysis with regard to what the space domain can have, and then using MBSE, I'm sure that can apply to multi-domain aspects as well. Is there an opportunity to answer some multi-domain issues or joint all-domain command and control issues with this tool?
Yes, certainly. And whether we talk about the space domain, or we talk about Department of the Air Force, or we talk about all the domains and all the services working together, this kind of a tool really can add value. And so first of all, speaking about the space domain, this tool was put together with extensibility in mind. Our software engineers use modern open source software to build this. This is not something that locks the 319th into one vendor to give them enhancements and expansion down the road. So its architecture was developed or designed with growth in mind. So that's the first point. And so when it comes to the joint domain and multi-domain operations, which is a really complex problem that the services are working on jointly to try and address, this kind of tool can actually support refinement of those concepts, because as you and I have talked about in the past, the concepts for employing weapon systems from multiple domains in one engagement requires a lot of development of the operational concepts to do that. And the Air Force, Navy, and Army are all working on that. But eventually you have to distill that down to guidance to the troops. And we normally talk about that as having doctrine and tactics and techniques and procedures. So if you can work that out in a virtual environment while you're also doing real world experiments, you can accelerate that process. Because we don't know what to teach unless we have refined and verified and validated those operational procedures. So as we gather that knowledge and experience, it certainly brought into a tool like this. And we were talking at 319th about maybe enhancing it to be more of an interactive and dynamic type capability, that once you do that, not only do students have a greater experience and learn more, but that naturally would start moving into other uses, like maybe in wargaming, or maybe in operations centers too. Because if you can render what's going on in the real world to this kind of fidelity, you have a really powerful tool. And I think joint domain operations fits right in there as well.
I completely agree. And you described this tool as being evolutionary, meaning you can continue to evolve it. And we just looked at just a quick snippet of probably an OPIR, or overhead persistent infrared mission set. Are all the space domain mission sets represented by this tool, or can they be?
Well, so the answer is no, and yes, it can be. There was a set of scenarios, space events that 319th wanted up front, and we did about 10 of those. And in a couple of cases, we have varied the scenario a little bit to meet certain other criteria. But that could continue on, certainly. The scenarios provide, they're carefully constructed to meet the needs of particular blocks of instruction that would occur during that 3-week course. So yes, it can, and with some, more engineering and more testing, you can get into that non-deterministic kind of scenario where either the student or instructor knows what's going to happen, because the outcome will be determined by inputs provided by the students, and they would get real-time feedback on the quality of their decisions or the kind of information they elected to provide and so forth. So we hope that's in the near term type of an evolution of the tool. And then it's, as the 319th, Mr. Prescott talks to other members of his community and other parts of the military, there might be opportunities to advance it into other areas.
Is SBMT customizable? Can other DoD stakeholders modify SBMT to meet their specific needs? And can you talk a little bit about the SBMT architecture?
Yes, so some of the important points to know about SBMT, again, it's built using open source software. So that in of itself tells you that any software engineers trained in contemporary programming methods, if they don't know a technology like Cesium, which is the 3D graphical type software engine underneath, they can certainly learn that. And those kinds of skills are, I think, plentiful in the workplace. And here at LinQuest, we've brought such engineers in, and if they didn't know that technology, they would get spun up on it. It is customizable because of that architecture, and we can it can be advanced by others. It's a commercial product we created specifically for the government. So primarily working with government customers, we're quite used to their needs and interest in controlling the kinds of products we deliver to them. So it has a lot of flexibility.
I suspect you're going to have a lot of interest in seeing more about this capability that you're talking about today. If folks are interested and they want to see more about this, how would they reach out? Who would they talk to?
Well, so first of all, and perhaps you'll be able to provide that link out to the video if they want to know more about SBMT specifically. That's not on YouTube, so that's pretty widely accessible. I would think a good first point of contact here at LinQuest would be our SBMT program manager, and that's jaclyn.monahan. And her email address is jaclyn, jaclyn.monahan. MONAHAN at LinQuest.com. And if you're able to put that out there as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll put that link in there as well, John. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking time today. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we get going?
Well, just that myself personally, as the MBSE architect for this team that developed the SBMT trainer tool, it was a pleasure having the opportunity to make a direct and concrete impact on the way we're training our upcoming space battle management force and space operations force. And looking forward to do that all the more. Having retired from the Air Force myself, it's great to have that opportunity now to make an impact on people's lives. And I think LinQuest has the right mix of people like myself, operational experience, software engineers, systems engineers to put together great capabilities for the Air Force and Space Force.
I completely agree, John. Thank you for everything that you're doing individually. And I can't thank LinQuest enough for being a corporate member of the Space Force Association and one of the founding corporate members of the SFA. So thanks for that continued support. And we look forward to talking to you in the future as this capability continues to develop and evolve. Really appreciate your time. Have a great Space Force Day. Semper Supra.
Great talking with you, Bill. Thanks for the time today.